My name's Chris Maclay. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Lynk. I'll be talking a lot about Lynk over the course of this presentation. Just to give a little bit of context as to who I am. So, as you heard, I arrived in this country about 3 years ago. I've been in Africa for about 8 years, originally working in the NGO and the youth employment space, always trying to focus on how to connect young people, particularly underskilled and undereducated young people, to jobs. And I started working with Lynk about 2 years ago, as I truly believed that Lynk had more potential than anything I had come across in my life to improve the nature of work in the gig economy. So I'm keen to talk it through and talk about some of the kind of broader implications. I'd like to start with a little story about when I first arrived in Kenya 3 years ago. Shortly after I arrived, the pipe under my sink broke. I did the thing that everyone does to find a plumber. I asked around and I got the number of a guy called Peter. Called him up and he said he'd be there in an hour. 6 hours later, the guy turns up. He tells me that there's some kind of problem with the pipe that I couldn't really understand. He then charges me a small fortune to go and get parts to replace the pipe. Now, I'm new to the country. I don't know anything about plumbing to start off with. I don't know how much these pieces should cost. And I give him all of my money and he disappears, comes back and fixes the pipe. The next morning, the leak returns. I'm sure you all have had this experience before. Now, I tried to call up Peter, didn't pick up his phone. He'd gone Mateja. I did, and then I was starting from scratch again. I asked around for a new phone number. This time I got the number of a guy called Eric. Called Eric up, he said he'd be there in an hour. He turned up in an hour. He told me the problem was actually with the boiler and not with the pipe, and fixed it in no time for a fraction of the price of what Peter had done only 24 hours before. Today I work for Lynk. Lynk is a platform which aims to organize and formalize this informal sector, so that people like Eric can get more and more work and grow their businesses, and to cause people like Peter to up their game a little bit. So what is the gig economy that we are operating in? Is it this? I'm sure you guys all saw the news over the last few weeks where we had thousands of Uber and Taxify riders striking against a digital platform that was aiming to work in the informal space. What is the gig economy? The gig economy involves a breadth of different fields of work. Now in Kenya, over 80% of employment takes place in the informal space. Now the gig economy can involve a range of jobs, the common themes being that you are paid for the work that is delivered, either through a short-term basis, a piece basis, rather than having an ongoing contract. Now these couple of slides are from a report that Mercy Corps, an NGO, is going to release in the next couple of weeks. I was told by them to let you guys know that you should contact them to get a copy of the report. I have the email address that I can give to you guys at the end of the session if you're interested. And people's interaction with the gig economy varies greatly. Some people choose to interact with the gig economy, saying, I would rather have independence over my time. Some people are forced into the gig economy because they can't get a formal job. My objective today is not to talk about the morals or the right and wrong of those systems, but firstly just to point out that the gig economy is not just one thing. It is a range of different economic actions taken to earn income on a job-by-job or piece-by-piece basis. I myself am going to be talking about the gig economy that exists with artisans, fundis, tradespeople, and informal workers. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about the challenges of working with that gig economy and trying to organize that gig economy using technology. As I mentioned, the gig economy in Kenya is huge and is bigger than most parts of the world. The gig economy is also growing. This beautiful graph here shows how the informal sector is now accounting for over 80% of employment, and the rate at which this is happening is only growing. If we want to create and promote employment at scale in Kenya, where we're really going to achieve it is in the informal sector. Now, the informal sector has a lot of problems with it, though. In kind of a lot of the Europe and the Americas, people complain a lot about the gig economy. They complain how the gig economy, this is jobs that might exist with Uber, different online platforms. Those jobs used to be formal jobs with a range of benefits, a range of protections, and the gig economy broke apart those jobs and turned them into gigs, which are irregular, unreliable, often low paid. Now, the truth is, in Kenya, those formal jobs never really existed, or at least they never existed at the scale needed to create employment at scale. I think they say that there's 800,000 young Kenyans entering the labor force every year. And I think we know that the economy is not generating 800,000 formal jobs. So how can we ensure that those people entering the economy get employment that is meaningful and reliable? Now, a lot of people in the Europe and the Americas look at platforms like these to say, how can we organize the gig economy? Now, the McKinsey Global Institute estimates that online talent platforms, as they call them, like these, will positively impact 540 million people by 2023, adding $2.7 trillion to the global economy. Huge, huge impact. However, a lot of people deride these platforms. We hear about the frustrations of Uber here alone. Underpaying people, making their work unreliable, and pushing people to work crazy hours. Now, the challenge of platforms like these is that online talent platforms generally work well for people who already have stuff. Uber works well for people who have cars. Otherwise, in the Kenyan market, you have to have a relationship with a car owner where you always end up getting the short end of the straw. If you look at these platforms that largely exist in the US and Europe, Thumbtack, a platform for artisans and tradespeople, require you to have a registered business, strong track record and customer references, technical qualifications. Even TaskRabbit is a platform where you might pay someone to wait in line for you to buy concert tickets or to clean up your house. In the US, fully 95% of taskers on that platform have a university degree or are studying for university. So these platforms seem to offer opportunities to connect people working the gig economy to more work and to better work, but there's a lot of problems. And I ask myself how platforms like these can help less educated, less skilled people who aren't as well connected to the modern digital world. And Lynk aims to solve some of these things. So Lynk is a platform for fundis. We work with people in over 30 different categories. These are plumbers, electricians, carpenters, cleaners, beauticians, people who traditionally don't work on a 9-to-5 basis. For those who don't know, even those working in salons here, they generally don't have salaried roles, but work on a commission-based structure. We aim to organize that. Now, the foundation of this for a context like Kenya is creating trust. When Eric turned up at my house to fix my pipe after I had already had this frustration with Peter, I was skeptical, right? I was willing to underpay him because I thought he would just do the same shoddy job that I had got the day before. I didn't believe the prices he was quoting me for the materials. And I think we all know that there is this sense of great distrust that exists in the informal space here. A lot of people would be willing to pay a little bit more for their cleaner if they knew that they definitely wouldn't steal from them. A lot of people would pay a little bit more for a plumber if they knew that that certificate they have for a technical qualification really meant that they were a quality plumber. And if those people had more trust and were able to reach bigger clients, they could start earning more money. So the foundation of Lynk is trying to create that trust. Everyone that enters onto our platform, we vet heavily. We test their qualifications, we test them in person, through practical tests, through role plays, through customer service testing. We aim to ensure that everyone on the platform is trustworthy. So just through the association with Lynk, they're able to start earning more income. For those of you, for example, who have ever arrived at the airport in Nairobi, you have all of those guys waiting outside. I've heard so many people deeply distrustful of those people, but then when you use the Uber platform and that same guy who's just been hassling you for a job comes along, you find a greater level of trust. We want to see how we can create trust in this messy, informal space. Now, after this basis of creating trust, we aim to create market. We work with 3 different types of client base. The first one is households. Households that are welcoming people into their houses, maybe to clean for the whole day or look after my child, maybe to fix the dishwasher while I'm in the other room. We work with households firstly, and then secondly, we work with businesses. Businesses like the Sarova Hotel, although not yet, maybe by the end of today, which need ongoing maintenance services. Now, traditionally, these guys work with larger contractors. The traditional contractor takes a significant percentage, let's say over 80% of the income or cost of a job will go to the contractor, who often functions as nothing more than a middleman, meaning that the technical guy on the ground doing the work gets a very small amount of income. So we work with these businesses to aim to cut out the middleman and provide a direct connection of trust between these informal workers and fundis and these larger businesses. And thirdly, we work with offices, restaurants, and bars to do these larger fit-outs. As we're in Nairobi today, I'm sure many of you have been to Jay's, Alchemist, Baobox, Mama Rocks, places like this. So we built all of them. And when I say we, I mean fundis on the Lynk platform. These are people who traditionally would never be able to apply for a tender or work on these bigger projects, as they don't have the formal qualifications or indeed the registration papers. But Lynk, as an overarching platform, can identify the client, win the work, and then divide the work up among the fundis and pros on our platform. So we have a big focus on creating that market for people that wouldn't normally have access to these, this formal space and larger jobs. I'm pointing this out all because it is hard to do this, and I'm going to talk through some of the other things that we need to do to connect informal gig workers to jobs. Now, we've learned over time that just connecting someone and hoping that everything goes well is not really enough. Instead, we've learned that we really need to structure the interactions between fundis and between clients, particularly when, and this is a really important point, the social class of a fundi might be very different from the social class of the client. A lot of jobs that we experienced in the early days would go wrong because a client would ask for one thing. The fundi knows that this isn't the right thing to do, but will nod and be polite and say yes, and then the job will end badly. So over time, we have built more and more systems around supporting gig workers to thrive. Otherwise, we just see this sector as remaining very broken. One of these is creating an e-commerce store that lets fundis resell products that they've made before. Rather than each time having to sit on the side of a Ngong road waiting for someone to come along, ask for something crazy that is very hard to do, we let each fundi that has worked before on our platform list the items that they have previously sold, as it's easy to make the same thing twice than to make a new thing again. We have also started structuring services in a way that our professionals can thrive. When we began our platform, we started as an auction marketplace where a customer would make a request, fundis would submit a quote, and the customer would choose who to work with. What we saw was a lot of frustration on both sides, largely based about this communication. I asked for this, but I got this. Both people are frustrated. So what we did was we did a lot of research to try and understand what customers really want, and to understand what our fundis or our professionals, how they want to deliver their services. So for example, when you get a manicure on Lynk now, whether it's Jack or Jill, everyone is following the same 10-step manicure process, ensuring that everyone ends very happy. And I mentioned a little bit about these large projects where we take the responsibility of negotiating with the client, designing how the office fit out. This is Baubox in Parkland, for those of you who haven't been. And then we provide very clear instructions to the fundis. So we take away a lot of the stress. Now, along the way, Lynk plays a very, very hands-on role. We don't believe that technology alone is enough to correct the informal sector. We believe it needs collaboration with training institutions. We believe it needs like in-person and close support. We do have what we call a digital office assistant or personal assistant that reminds our plumbers 3 hours before, 2 hours before, 1 hour before, make sure to get here at this time, that gives them feedback from clients, that provide ratings. But a lot of this stuff happens offline. We have a little training space at our office where our pros come every day of the week to get advice on what's missing. We facilitate partnerships with different training institutions to continue building people up. Now, the reason I am emphasizing all of this is the gig economy risks getting a bad name through the likes of Uber, which is seen to be breaking down or underpaying people. And my emphasis is that the gig economy can offer huge opportunity, but it's going to take a lot of work. If we want to ensure that gig economy workers can thrive, can earn more income, we're going to need collaboration with universities and educational institutions. We're going to need collaborations with banks to ensure credit. We're going to need collaboration with technology companies that connect people to work. One of the things that we learned over time is to get particularly younger people into employment, they're going to need tools. Operating in the gig economy, someone turns up at your house to fix your pipes, they're going to need a toolbox. Lynk has a partnership with a financial service provider that provides small loans to people entering our platform to get the tools that they need to start working on it. Our platform is then also able to deduct 15% of each of their jobs to pay off that loan, so they only pay off the loans as soon as they start earning income. Oh, I already mentioned the significant amount of training that we do to ensure that our guys are work ready. Now, to give you an idea of where we are today, we had to date over 1,600 what we call pros, fundis on our platform have earned income. And we facilitated 33,000 jobs or gigs. This has resulted in over 350 million shillings in platform sales. That means 350 million shillings are transferring from clients into the hands of informal workers. Now, this is only the start for us. I heard earlier that no, we haven't heard about Lynk. Why have I never used their services? We haven't really started marketing. Most of this has come through word of mouth, and what we're really hoping to do is grow over the course of the next few years so that everyone knows the place to to find a trusted fundi. Now, our goal is not just to grow a successful business. Our goal is to change the ecosystem and the trust that exists within this informal sector. Moving away from finding someone on the side of the road to fix my pipe, mistrusting them, underpaying them, to a more transparent space where informal workers have trust, have quality work, and we're able to introduce more and more services to them, including we are currently piloting an insurance product that our pros can join into, and to connecting them better to other services. This was really kind of what I wanted to talk through today, to talk about this messy informal space where gig workers are either able to thrive or are likely to fail. The questions that I want to really push to you guys, particularly the journalists in the room, is how we can ensure that platforms such as these and emerging platforms don't just benefit the few that have access to technology, but do this hard work to ensure that less educated, lower skilled and lower paid people can access the benefits of the gig economy adequately. A few things I didn't talk about. I focused on the Juakali sector, but I heard from my colleague here about his use of gig economy platforms for graphic designers, marketers. I think we've all heard of things like Fiverr, Upworthy, and more. These are fantastic platforms that benefit those really at the top of the gig economy, and what's going to be really, really hard is to make sure that those at the bottom of the gig economy are provided the supports that they need to thrive as well. I think this is really where collaboration is needed to achieve that. So as I say, for me, the gig economy is not something new, it is the economy here. Now, we have the opportunity to leave the informal sector in the gig economy as something that is left out, that's something that is undervalued, underpaid, or we have the opportunity to support it, to enable it to be better connected, to be better paid, to be better connected to government, to be better connected to this growing economy that we are living in. In order to achieve that, we're going to need a few things. One, we're going to need organization between different players. Connections between the vocational training schools, platforms like ours, government policy. We're going to need people to challenge some of these bigger players in terms of like how pricing works. This is something everyone has been writing about, this Uber issue. Now, I don't know if anyone has asked the internal question of why are we not willing to pay more? To get a high quality service, what are the standards that we have within this market of what someone should be paid? I'd love to see that article being written. I think we all need to work as consumers as well to better respect the artisan and the Juakali space. Until we change our mentality of trying to get the cheapest possible service, rather than investing in a good quality service or respecting the fundis that turn up at our house, we're going to leave the sector as something that is seen as lower class, unreliable. And we really need to work together as consumers to up the game of the informal sector. And I think this is something that journalists can also help to have a massive role in redefining and repicturing how we perceive of the Juakali and the fundi space.